So you've just landed in Fiji at Nadi Airport, but chances are Nadi isn't where you're going to in Fiji. Sure, there are some resorts that you can reach by taxi or boat, but even if you want to get to the capital of Suva on the same island, you will likely want to fly. Ditto for all of the other islands. I'm off to Taveuni, which means I'm flying on Fiji Link, the domestic subsidiary of Fiji Airways. It's, well, quite the experience, and be sure and watch to the end because I nearly missed my return flight, even though I was at the airport an hour early. The domestic terminal for Fiji Link is a short walk from the international terminal. It's quite the change. While the international terminal is sleek, modern, and air-conditioned, the domestic terminal is rather quaint. There's Wi-Fi though, which is nice. I had booked a flexible economy ticket since I was unable to combine this flight with my larger Alaska Airlines award ticket. I paid $372 for the round trip, which for an hour-long flight seems rather steep. It did include seat selection and the ability to change, which is why I booked it. However, it was impossible to select seats for this specific aircraft type. More annoyingly, I kept getting email offers for a bula bubble, i.e. buying out the seat next to you for the extra space. I think this likely works just fine for Fiji long haul, but for Fiji Link, where I couldn't even select a seat, it was a complete farce, as clicking on the link would just result in an error page. I checked in for the flight and I was weighed along with my carry-on baggage. My seat was just assigned at check-in. The prior flight had yet to take off, and they offered to put me on the earlier flight, but my hotel was picking me up, so I waited. You'll want to spend as much time as you can in the pre-security waiting area, as it's open air and fairly spacious. After security, you just get put in this room, not only with no concessions, but not even any restrooms. The flight board was not updated at all, and flights were boarded about 5 minutes prior to departure. They just called out the flight number and the destination, and people got up. Some tourists, mishearing, even tried to board the wrong plane. Finally, it was time for my flight and I walked along the apron. Fiji Link operates only 7 aircraft, 3 ATRs and 4 de Havilland DHC-6 400 twin Otters. Having just flown on the DHC-3 Otter float plane in Key West, this should be rather similar, with the addition of an extra Otter this time.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
We boarded via a set of stairs behind the wing. The cabin is mostly in a 1-2 layout, with the exception of a seat opposite the door and 3 in the back. Legroom is pretty tight and there's no overhead bins, so whatever you bring goes under the seat. My backpack totally fit. Totally. While the DHC-3 I reviewed was built in the 1960s, the DHC-6 is a brand new aircraft, complete with modern avionics. There's both a pilot and a co-pilot, but no other crew on board. After a brief safety demonstration, we powered up, taxied to the runway, and took off.
And if you have any mobile phones on you, if you have any tablets, please kindly switch it off or you can put it on silent mode.
Flying time to Taveuni was 55 minutes at 9,100 feet. The flight path was effectively a straight line, flying over the main island of Viti Levu before heading out to sea. Vanua Levu came into view and was off the left-hand side for the most part of the flight, and Taveuni on the right. The airport on Taveuni is on the very northern end of the island, which we flew over before circling to land. The runway sure looked awfully short in the jungle at 910 meters, 2,986 feet, but the Twin Otter excels at short takeoffs and landings, and we gently touched down and came to a stop. We taxied to the terminal, and one of the pilots helped us deplane. Baggage claim was them bringing a cart and passing out the luggage in the terminal. After an awesome time on the island, it was time to head back to Nadi. My hotel insisted that I get to the airport at least 1 hour early. I felt that this was rather unnecessary given the tiny airport and lack of security, but boy, I'm glad I did. I had been tracking the inbound flight, but lack of signal on the road meant I only had a vague idea of when the flight was going to arrive. I went to check in, was weighed, checked my bag, etc., then heard the roar of engines. The inbound aircraft touched down a full 40 minutes prior to the scheduled arrival time. No matter, I thought. I sat in the open-air terminal, which was rather rustic, and expected to wait for nearly an hour. But no. Boarding started 50 minutes early. I was in fact the first person to board. While I had been given one of the pair seats, I was told while walking out to the aircraft that I could sit in row 6, the solo seat. The remaining passengers quickly boarded, though you need to watch your head.
Watch your head.
Usually, no one has to say that to me because I'm so short.
Oh,
It's always second time in my whole life.
Boarding only took 3 minutes. Then, 47 minutes early, we closed the door and departed. I have no idea what would have happened if I'd arrived only 45 or 30 minutes before the flight. I think they would have just left me. And this was the last flight of the day. So yeah, get there early. This time the pilots were a pair of young women, which is always nice to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Fiji Link, we'd like to welcome you on board Link Fiji 128, bound for Nadi this afternoon.
We taxied to the runway. It was really cool to see the two pilots working together, with no cockpit divider. We revved the engines with the brakes locked before rocketing down the runway and leaping into the air. Flying time was just over an hour at 8,000 feet. The view was mostly the same, but we were a bit further north, allowing us a closer view of Vanuatu and Sabu. We made landfall over the main island before descending straight in from the east to land in Nadi. Our stand was fairly close to baggage claim, then I headed to my hotel for the night across the street from the airport. So Fiji Link on the DHC-6 Twin Otter. It was a really amazing flight, and it's not like you have a choice in the matter anyway. Yeah, it was a bit pricey. But the main takeaway I say is to track your flight and get to the airport, at least on the outstations, very early, as they seem to just go whenever they feel like going. If anything, it's the very opposite of island time. If you want to see my review on the DHC-3 Otter to dry Tortugas, you can see that right here. Otherwise, I'll see you in the morning for Fiji's business class on the A330, or you can check out the whole playlist right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.